I think it's the best piece I've read this week, and it comes from Rich Lowry, the editor of the National Review. And if you have that subscription, then you may have read this piece as well. Headline, "The End of a Scam." He writes here, Joe Biden was never a wonderful guy, definitely not the savior of democracy, no matter what his media supporters say. Rich Lowry adding, how appropriate that the Biden presidency is ending with an act of self-dealing that he and his allies insisted with great righteousness would never happen. Rich, good morning. Thanks for being here on KCMO. The pardon of Hunter Biden, obviously, what you're talking about there. What is the most stunning or offensive part of the entire pardon itself?
Great question. So it wasn't surprising. In fact, I think any sensible person would have expected this to happen or considered it inevitable. But the blatant, flagrant lying being exposed was quite bad. He could have said, when asked about it, no comment, I'm not going to answer a hypothetical, anything like that. That would have been sort of a yes, but he would have had plausible deniability. He wouldn't have actually said he's going to do it. Instead, he just lied. And then all these people went out there and said, see how wonderful he is? He's not going to pardon Hunter. He believes in our institutions and norms. And then just the dishonesty of the statement. Along with the pardon, he just could have said, I'm a dad. I can't handle it. I've gone through a lot as a dad. My family has, and I just can't take this. I hope you understand. That would have been honest. But instead, it's like he's been targeted by his own Justice Department. There was this carefully negotiated plea deal, which was true. It was carefully negotiated to give Hunter every single break in consideration, such that it fell apart when a judge took one glance at it. And he blames his political opponents, Biden, for that. So the whole thing is just, it's disgraceful and stomach churning from beginning to end. And then, of course, he only evaded taxes, Hunter, because he was getting all this dubious foreign money, millions and millions and millions from dubious foreign actors because his dad was powerful.
How much of this and the way that Hunter Biden got this, not just, bailed out on the drugs and the gun charges, but this immunity bath that covers 10 years, how much of this is really about protecting, forget Hunter, but Joe, his brother, and the entire family?
Yeah, well, that's a key point, because on the key abuse of power, I'm not sure whether it's a crime, but you certainly could have looked at it seriously for potential crimes. He's implicated. He's at the center of it. He's the reason for it. There'd be no family influence peddling business if it weren't for him. It was his name and access to him that was being sold, and he was aware of it all along. He was part of it. And he lied about that. So I think there's some people that say, oh, he had to do this, because Kash Patel is going to be a FBI director. But he would have pardoned him even if Trump had said, Merrick Garland's staying as my AG, because he didn't want Hunter to go to jail. That was the fundamental thing. Now it was more wide-ranging because he wants to protect him from any future prosecution having to do with all the influence peddling. But he would have pardoned him no matter what.
What about the angle you're hearing on the other side, which is, well, Trump pardoned his, I guess, son-in-law's father, Jared Kushner's father, and now he's got a sweet, cushy gig. So Trump's doing the same thing, Rich Lowry.
Yeah, so, it's definitely true that I don't think Trump used the pardon power in a great way, and it's not great that this is used just as kind of a get out of jail or wipe out your charges card for people who just happen to know the President of the United States or be related to the President of the United States. Now, there is a distinction there because Charles Kushner, Jared's father, did serve the time. That's supposed to be one of the predicates, right? You serve your time, you express remorse, you confess what you did, and then you get pardoned. That's the way it's supposed to work. That's not the way it's worked a lot. But Charles Kushner did serve his time. Same with Roger Clinton. Bill Clinton had terrible pardons at the end, including of the scam artist Mark Rich. But he pardoned his brother, who had drug charges and had served his time as well, and they were just kind of wiped out. This is an entirely different kind of thing.
So the pardon in general, obviously it's part of the executive branch's power, but is this what the founding fathers intended with the pardon power, or are we way past that?
It's an abuse of a power they put there, I believe, for a good reason. So the best use of it that you can look at, a major use of it, I'm not aware of all the minor people have been pardoned for various things, but the Gerald Ford pardon of Richard Nixon served the public interest. It was important he had the ability to do that. We're moving on as a nation. leave him alone. He's paid the price, and that it would have been terrible if Nixon had been prosecuted. Now since then we've past that event horizon where a former president was prosecuted, and it never should have happened with Trump.
Yeah. But
I think it makes sense that it's in there, but it's been abused or not used the way the founders would have intended in the last 20 years or so.
Mm-hmm. All right. Rich Lowry, the editor of the National Review, is here. Rich, I want to ask you about what, of course, some breaking news that came down last night. That Pete Hegseth's nomination for Department of Defense looks like it could be on the ropes. Trump apparently weighing Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, for that spot right now. It's awkward because I'm looking at Fox News. They're reporting on it. They've got reporters down at Mar-a-Lago. Brett Baer's talking about it right now, and it's, of course, involving one of their colleagues. What do you think's going on here? Because a lot of people are saying that, they're just kind of slinging mud at Hegseth when it came to the handling of finances with some of these veterans organizations, when it came to him allegedly, per anonymous reports, showing up on the Fox News set smelling like alcohol. I mean, what are we making of all this?
Yeah, so I believe that kind of by his own admission, right, he was tomcatting around and was drinking a lot. And that's shouldn't be disqualifying. Certainly when you're a young man, it's not great behavior. Certainly the way, he had a couple of marriages blow up, that's not great. It's embarrassing, but it shouldn't be disqualifying. But just the more of this kind of information is out there, the harder it gets for him, because the other side of the equation, he's also an unknown quantity, right? We can't be certain he's going to be able to run the Pentagon. He could be a jolt of energy there. It could be great for the institution and for recruiting and all that, but we don't know. So it's not as though we're learning that Ike, when he was 35, was in Abilene, Kansas, at the local strip club, and got drunk and did some stuff he shouldn't have, right? But he's Eisenhower. We know he's gonna run the war effectively. So with Pete, we're not sure about that. I think he'd be. I think it's an interesting and potentially good idea to have him there. But getting there, I think, gets really hard now. And DeSantis, I don't know whether that'll happen. Susie Wiles, Trump's chief of staff, formerly worked for DeSantis, and they had a bad falling out, and doesn't like him very much. But he's the model. Like all the kind of controversial ones, one of the key questions is, can I actually carry out running the place, right? Kash Patel, can he actually run the FBI? With DeSantis, you have someone who wants to reform, in a major way restructure these places, and is intellectually serious and has done it, right? And that's the key thing. So if he'd be a fantastic defense secretary. Again, I don't know what's going to happen. I think he'd be a fantastic AG. He'd be a fantastic secretary of HHS. That's the model, the kind of guy you want. Now, there are not a lot of them, but I think that's better than taking a leap in the dark the way we are with some of these nominees.
So what do you think the Trump calculation comes down to here? Because he's not one to back down because the media is anonymously trashing his guy. Mm-hmm. Does he just say, hey, this is not worth a lot of political capital to move ahead with Pete Hegseth, who he seems to like very much? So for all the people saying, hey, these are hit jobs, they're going after our guy. Well, if Trump is considering moving on, what does that tell us?
Yeah, so I think one is political capital, and that happened. That was part of the calculation with Matt Gaetz. And then it's whether he'll actually get through or not. And if Pete goes down, it's going to be on the Gaetz model. There's not going to be a floor vote, right? They're not going to be hearings. It's going to be a lot of senators quietly saying, I'm sorry, I can't get there. And having enough, you can't. They can lose three votes. Right, but being the fourth vote, taking someone down would be extremely uncomfortable. No one, for a Republican, no one wants to be in that position. So instead, it'll be 6 or 8 of them saying, "I can't do this," and then just the Senate, the Senate touters looking and telling President Trump, sorry, he's not going to make it. So we're taking on water, and he's not going to make it. And then someone taps Pete on the shoulder and say, sorry, it wasn't fair, but we got to move on.
But then you would
I think it's more likely than not that's going to happen now.
Okay, you do think that. But if Trump really wanted to, he could go on social media, he could call everybody rhinos and say, confirm Pete Hegseth. But you're saying he just may not want to bother at this point.
Right. It just might be too much of a lift. And, again, there's a case, I think a reasonable case to be made for shaking up the Pentagon and getting Hegseth in there. But it's not as though he's an irreplaceable man, right? Yeah. None of us are irreplaceable. But there are other possibilities, not DeSantis, there are others. But DeSantis, again, he'd be confirmed, no doubt,
Yeah.
and would be fantastic at the job, I think, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. That's true. All right. Have you heard, by the way, Rich Lowry, from President Trump here in the last few weeks? No, he likes to rib you once in a while and call you from the golf course.
I have not yet.
Okay. Well, I'm figuring he wants to probably, just remind you how well he did on November 5. I'm sure he likes that.
That would be he'd have every right to do that. I always thought he was going to win. I think we talked about that. I got a little had some doubts right at the end because the polling was still close, but if I had to guess, and I did predict that he would win, but he outstripped my prediction by winning every swing state. And look, he had a theory of the case. It worked. He's going to be president again. Amazing comeback. My hat is off to him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I just can't get. Go ahead, Rich.
I was going to say a key question though is the Chiefs, right? So, do you look at the Chiefs in terms of this is such a good team, it wins every close game, or do you look at the Chiefs as maybe they're not as good as they used to be in the past, and they're getting lucky in all these close games?
Oh, that is a great question. So I think the Chiefs right now, sitting at 11-1. Are in many respects like Donald Trump in the sense that he won every swing state, but some people are getting a little cocky. Like, yes, he won every swing state, but it was very close. The Chiefs are 11-1, but they could be 7-5, right?
Yeah. Well, I know in baseball, a little different thing because it's a long season and things average out. But if you win every one-run game in the first half, it usually means you're going to lose every one-run game in the second half.
Well, that's true. That's true. We'll see. Sunday night, they got the Chargers here at Arrowhead Stadium. Rich Lowry on KCMO. I just can't get the vision of Dwight Eisenhower at a strip club in Abilene, Kansas out of my head, Rich. So thank you for that this morning. I appreciate it.
It'd be a good time. I'm sure it'd be a really good time.
Well, it might be a good time being with Ike. I don't know about the Abilene, Kansas strip clubs. I can't speak to that. So I'll maybe that'll be part of a visit sometime for you out to the Heartland, Rich Lowry. We appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
There is such an establishment there first.
Well, that's a very good point. I was out there for the 80th anniversary of D-Day. It was not on my list of things to do, but I'll have to Google map it next time, maybe. Oh, man. Thank you, Rich. We appreciate you, man.
Thanks so much.
All right. Rich Lowry on KCMO Talk Radio.